Hey, welcome to Dow's Weekly Digest. What challenges are you facing? Has the COVID-19 caused you to make changes in your plans, both personal and business-wise? I know it has LaDonna and I, personal-wise, and of course business it has too. You know, in dealing with this change in your plans, how adaptable are they? Do they have flexibility? And to have that flexibility, to have your plans to be adaptable, maybe you need a foundation of comfort, from which then with that comfort, then you can build your changes. Part of that comfort can come from a sense of community. Let me give you a recollection I had here. I was listening to a podcast, and the young lady was a wife of a Navy chaplain. And prior to that, her father was in the Army. You see, folks, it was a stage of my life that I was an Army brat. Do you know that word brat has its original origin from British Regiment Attached Traveler? A British Regiment Attached Traveler. In those early days, it was only the officers that could bring their family. So let's say you had a British officer that was going to India. He would bring his brats, and that's where the term brat comes from. Maybe a whole different connotation in what we think. And really, when I grew up, and I would hear the term, oh, there are a bunch of Army brats here at this school. Okay, whole different little light on it there. As that stage of my life, there was 2 times a day. Now, we lived on base, but there were 2 times a day that I would enjoy looking back on community. One of us would be if you were up early in the morning, 6:30 a.m., and the other was towards evening at 5:30 p.m. You see, on base, in the morning, they would be raising the colors. And whatever you were doing, you could hear the music, and you were supposed to stand at attention, and you were to face the flagstaff of the base. If you couldn't see the flagstaff, you were to face the music on where you were hearing the music. And we were to put our hand over our heart and then do that until we stopped hearing the music. In the evening, same thing. At 5:30, when they retired the colors, we would do the very same thing. And if we were in a car, we would pull over, as the other people would be in front and back of you. We would pull over and we'd get away from the road and stand again and do that facing there. It was maybe a discipline, yes, but it gave a sense of community, as I say. Maybe a little sense of comfort that whatever the day had planned out, we had planned out, and whatever the day had brought us, it's still what kind of brought it full circle. The day is done. That, again, looking back, folks, that give me a sense of comfort there. And that lady talking of that on that podcast kind of brought back that recollection. We here at Financial Markets, we hope that we're part of your community when you contact us and when we're working with you. The phrase I like to then use for today is adaptable plans. But before we look at the tools and some resources I got today, guess what, folks? Let's look at some cowboy wisdom. Some cowboy wisdom. Just because the chicken has wings, it doesn't mean it can fly. Maybe we have to think a little bit longer on our plans before we do something there. I remember years and years ago, folks, there was a TV show called WKRP Cincinnati. And they were going to do a promotion, but Les had an idea of marketing. Over Thanksgiving week, he hired a helicopter with a whole bunch of live turkeys. And he let the turkeys go up there at the helicopter. And turkeys like chicken, folks, especially those big old white turkeys, just like chickens, folks, they can't fly. And it just totally flopped. And of course, the all kinds of organizations was against the radio stations, but just because a chicken has wings, it doesn't mean it can fly. Well, you might be a Lutheran if. I've been a Lutheran quite a few years. Started in Nebraska, a small little Lutheran church, got married there, and it was Pastor Warner, a German. Then we went to Iowa, in which it was out in the country, supported by farmers, and there was a church, and then right next to it was the parsonage, and on the other side was the cemetery. And they had stained glass windows, I remember, and the stained glass windows had families' names. And those families sat in the pews right across. So LaDonna and I, we sat in the back. Then we moved to Minneapolis, the Lutheran church up there. It was a big church. Then we moved to Fargo, and Fargo was a brand new church, and there was only 50 of us there. We had to do the mopping, we had to vacuum, to move the chairs around for the pews, do the printing for them. It was, you just got involved. You know, welcome, hey, we got some things to have you do. Then in South Dakota, in Sioux Falls, it was one of the older churches. As Divine Providence would have it, when we moved here to Rapid City, the church that we go to was right across the street from where the office was. And we did it over Lent time. So when I was here by myself living in the hotel, I would go to the church during Lent on Wednesday evenings, and they had potluck, of course. And I'd go down for the potluck. So you might be a Lutheran. I've been that for a while. But you might be a Lutheran if you get a request, and it's either in front of or maybe even behind when they make the request of you. And they'll say, you know, if it's not too much trouble. If it's not too much trouble, could you do this? If it's not too much trouble, could you do this? And again, it could be maybe in front of the request or in behind the request. But don't want to put you out. But if it wouldn't be too much trouble. You might be a Lutheran if you heard that. South Dakota trivia. I want to stay on the topic of food. Maybe you had this, folks. I'm thinking of some cubes of meat. But they take this meat. Now this could be beef, venison. It could be bison. And my favorite is lamb. And then they would deep fat fry them. And actually the origin of this particular dish was to be cooked over an open fire. But there wasn't a whole lot of wood, as I say. So what they do? They fried it. And this is called chislic. Chislic, Freeman, South Dakota, which happens to be about 20 miles from my family, the Bartlings. You'd go there and we'd have chislic. And you'd put chislic on along a wooden skewer, and then they would fry that, and it would come out, and they would salt it, and then you usually get a few saltine crackers. Freeman has, in the summertime, a festival, Chislic Festival. Kind of my bucket list that I'd like to go to once. And of course, COVID hit them this summer too. But the first year they did it, they expected 2,000 people, and they had 15,000 people come to it, folks. That's quite a few people that over the 3-day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that they had it there. So Chislic, one of South Dakota favorites. If you haven't had it, come out here. I'll take you, get you some chislic. I said the phrase for today was adaptable planning. Well, let's look at the Bible. Matthew chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. The Sermon on the Mount. And there's one of the long dissertations, let's call it, that Jesus had. And in that, he talks about the ethics of the kingdom, moral teaching. He covers with us what the Lord's Prayer is. And then he talks about Christian discipleship. Now get this, folks. One of a nation's leaders, and this was just before the break of World War II. Now Winston Churchill said this of the Bible. Particularly said this of the Sermon on the Mount. He said this: the more closely we follow the Sermon on the Mount, the more likely we are to succeed in our endeavors. Right there from the Bible. Again, I had a recollection that when we visited Panama one time, we were able to go with a group and visit public schools. They're teaching the ethics of the Ten Commandments. They're using the Bible and they're using the ethics of the Ten Commandments to teach their young people. Getting close to what? That endeavor, folks. Following the Bible. Adaptable planning. You know, one of the hurdles in having our plans and then have to change our plans, how adaptable are they, are of course what? Problems. Now I've got a three-step method, pretty easy for you to remember in handling problems. And it goes like this. Think of a sponge, think of a light, and also think of an egg. Think of your brain, good old noggin here, kind of like a sponge. So as the problem comes up, take in all that you can and all the resources that you can, including others. You're not even trying to look at what the answer is yet. You're trying to what? Making sure that maybe you have it all well defined what the problem is. So first stage, sponge. Take it in. Take it all in. The next stage, let it incubate. Take time and let it incubate a little bit. You know, it takes 21 days on average for an egg to become a chicken. So give it some time. Give it some time. And towards the end of that incubation stage, don't think of it anymore. Give it some time there towards the end of your incubation stage. Just, I'm going to take on some other things. Then the light's going to come on, folks. The light will come on. So it's just 3 easy steps. The sponge, take it in, input, right? Incubation, okay? Let it set for a while. Maybe you'll come up with other things. That's sometimes when, I'll call it windshield time, will hit you. You're not, as I say, you're not thinking of it, but it comes, and it comes within a little bit more of a solution. Then the light will come, folks. The light will come. How do you handle problems? Sponge, egg, and a light. This comes from a well-renowned speaker of years back. His name was Earl Nightingale. So don't, hide that light under a basket, as the Bible would tell us. Go out there and then share it once you have the solution there. Well, Papa was applying that sponge and the egg and the light on a particular problem that he thought he had. Maybe it wasn't as much a problem as he thought, but he thought maybe it was, okay? You see, his teenage son. Now, his teenage son was doing well, getting good grades. His teenage son had 2 jobs that he enjoyed, that his son did. He was a disc jockey at a college, and then he was also a cameraman for a local NBC station. His son was starting to get into the fumes stage. Perfume and car fumes. Oh, folks. And so his son was trying to apply logic. And speaking to his papa, he says, what would you think about going halves with me on getting a car? I'm thinking that probably you, Mom, and you, Papa, taking me around all the time, that it causes stress. And that'd be a way that you wouldn't have as much stress. Papa gave it some thought, and he came and he says, I tell you what, how does this sound to you? That we're going to set up maybe a 4-point plan here. And if that's done in 9 months, then your mom and I will go half with you on the car. Oh, well, that sounds okay. Let's hear what the points are. Says, okay, let me go over them with you. You're going to do an extra 15 minutes of studying. And then the result of that needs to show that your grades have gone up. Okay, just 15 minutes a day. That sound realistic? Yeah. Okay, good, okay. You're going to clean my car once a week. Now, clean would be not only taking it and getting it washed, but then also check the fluids. That'll get you in a habit. When you get your own car, you need to do those things yourself. How's that sound? Hey, I can do that, no problem. As long as you put the gas in it, I'll take it. Like I said, well, you don't need to go 50 miles to go get the car washed, okay? Number 3, you're going to read the Bible 15 minutes more. Now, I understand, I know you're in the youth group and things like that, but just on your own. There are some real good stories there and good lessons to be learned there. That's agreeable? Yep, yeah, it's okay. And number 4, you need to get a haircut. Just the way it is out there with life sometimes in getting jobs and looking for opportunities, first impression has an effect. And you notice when I go to work, I'm always going to work in a suit. So what do you think? Well, I think it's worth a try. Okay, so 6 months goes by. Papa says, hey, man, you're doing great on the grades and everything. That's good. That's good. And see just what a little bit of extra effort does, how it can come to be. Yep, I see that. And my car's never been cleaner. And I know it's got the falls coming and snow's coming, that you got the fluid in there, and I appreciate that. And when you get your own car, as I said, just keep it doing the same way. How about the Bible? Well, then, even before Papa even got that out, the son brings that out as an opportunity. He says, yeah, I want to thank you. There are a lot of good stories and everything, both in the New Testament and the Old Testament. Like that. He says, I read about Moses and all the marvelous things with God's help, of course, that he was able to do for his people, and Jesus and disciples, how they traveled around and things like this and got marvelous things and did miracles. Yeah. He says, and when they did those things, they all had long hair, which kind of brings us to number 4, doesn't it? Papa hesitated, and he looked down at the ground, and he kind of kicked the ground a little bit, and he says, yeah, son, but I think you'll agree with me, won't you, that it's most certainly true that they did all those things you talk about. But they did it on foot. They walked everywhere that they went. Dad kind of got his point across, I think. And looking at the whole situation, when it got closer to 9 months, guess what? The haircut was done. Sometimes, folks, even on the run, you have to have a plan that is adaptable, because you don't know what feedback you're going to get. Adaptable plan questions can play a very, very important part. Asking questions, now, they can bring forth some advantages. If I ask questions, maybe it'll help avoid arguments. If I ask questions, maybe it'll help me that I'm talking too much. If I ask questions, it maybe helps the person to recognize their needs and their wants. Am I helping the client by asking questions? Am I helping them then put more in their sponge? Am I asking questions to help them incubate a little bit more? By just asking those questions. Asking those questions helps bring forth maybe some key issues. And then finally, what, folks? Asking questions can make that person feel important. The story of an agent that was going to meet on a very big manufacturer, and the manufacturer was getting quotes, and he took his quote in on a very large policy, a buy-sell type policy. Owner says, yeah, I'll just put it there, and there was like 10 others already set there. And the agent was heading for the door, and he kind of turns around and he says, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? He said, no, that'll be okay. He says, how did you start this business? And he said, the person, he started talking about himself a little bit, and he started talking about a question that he'd like to answer. So are you asking questions that they like to answer? He spent 45 minutes with that person. So he wasn't an order taker. He took the time. He asked questions. So to have adaptable plans, sometimes throw in your toolkit questions. Ask questions. Financial Markets has a complete portfolio to help you with your clients' needs there. Okay. One carrier that we have is Protective Life. Protective Life, folks, is 100 years old. Let me bring up one of the tools, let's call them, that Protective may have as a suggestion to help you be adaptable with your clients' problems and in your planning there. It's entitled here, folks, Pairing Term with Life Protection for More Tailored Coverage. So we can do a combination of maybe term insurance and then lifetime protection. Look at this key point here, folks. So life insurance isn't always one size fits all. They have the adaptability that as you maybe go in with a certain plan, you're able to pivot and go with the flow. Life insurance isn't always one size fits all. So ask our internal wholesaler for this brochure, Pairing Term with Life Insurance Protection, for a more what? Tailored coverage. Look at here at the uniqueness that Protective brings to the table here, folks. It's called the income provider option. A little more digging into it here. Think of this. The owner of the policy at that life event of death of the insured, which they may be the same person there, they can choose how the death benefit is going to be paid. It's not going to be paid in a normal lump sum. That person could choose it to go be paid annually, could be paid monthly, however the need would come about. Again, adaptable planning that you can offer to your client through the help of our internal wholesaler, and it's no extra cost for this, folks. In fact, it could even bring the premium down. It could even bring the premium down. So I get more flexibility, and yet I'm able to still bring my premium down. Income provider. Be sure to ask your internal wholesaler. You want information from this flyer right here. Term insurance. We think generically of the phrase term insurance. They have two different types of term insurance. They'll look at it at the end of the term event. Do they want the premium to be going up, or do they want the premium to remain the same? Adaptability on those two different type of solutions there. Ask your internal wholesaler. Say, tell me more about the different terms that Protective Life has. You can see, folks, why we say they're a very, very good resource for dealing with changes that may come about with your plans that you have for your client. Adaptability planning. Well, let's look at a few recommendations that I might have on this particular topic here. Adaptability and planning. The song that I have for that, folks, is entitled Making Plans. Making Plans. The singer is Miranda Lambert. And look at this little phrase here, folks. 'Cause I know you like the back of my hand. I know you like the back of my hand. Got a heart of gold and a piece of land. I'm your girl and you're my man. And we're making plans. We're making plans. Miranda Lambert. The poem is entitled A Simple Plan. A Simple Plan by Erwin Mercer. He says, stand on the left or stand on the right, whichever one you think is right. Live each day as if you're last. Life's too short and gone too fast. How about the book? The book is entitled The Power of Habit, and the author is Charles Duhigg. And what Charles covers is habit. How come we have, good intentions? We're going to do this, or what, every new year we've got these certain things we're going to do, or business, we've got certain goals. And we really have the intentions of doing those, folks. It gets to the side some way, and our intentions are just that. And he goes into habits, on how we developed habits and how, of course, what we can change our habits. The movie from the year 1991, it's about a young man named Jimmy Rabbit. Now, Jimmy Rabbit lives in the country of Ireland. You see, Jimmy Rabbit, he wants to invent the soul of Ireland. He wants to form a band, and he wants that band to then cover the 1960 music from America of the soul music, the African American soul music, so the Motown type music. And so he starts with getting different members of the band, and of course he goes through his different plans that he has to begin with and how easy he's going to get there. It sure doesn't work that way. And he has to indeed be adaptable in getting his plans. And one of the key things in that movie to pick out, he had a solution that would very much be instrumental in helping him get to his goal, but he did not take advantage of it. And so he had to take the long way around, you might say. But it's called The Commitments in 1991, the movie. the power phrase. The power phrase comes from our friend Mr. Ben Feldman. And at the time, Ben would actually use physical things when he would give this particular little phrase. He would say, you give me 2 cents and I'll give you $1. And I'm going to put this $1 in escrow. And if a certain life event happens, there's the $1. If it doesn't happen, next year, you give me 2 cents. And I'll still put the $1 in escrow. It was just as simple as that, folks, that he talked about. And he was talking about what? Discounted dollars, wasn't he? So give me 2 cents and I'll give you $1. And he would leave it at that, and they would say, what? What do you mean? I mean what I say. You give me 2 cents and I'll give you $1. Well, why wouldn't I do that? And then that's when he would bring out the 2 pennies and he'd bring out the $1 bill. Think about it, folks. Think about it. Our video comes from Protective Life. It's entitled, and think of this, I like that phrase, real life has no filters. Life's planned what? It has to be adaptable, folks. It can change, it can sway. And they're going to look at a couple here, a young couple, and how they talk about things on the horizon that are looking that can happen. And they're thinking, how can we plan for that?
Hey there, I'm Penn Holderness.
And I am Kim Holderness.
We are super psyched to be here with Protective Life Insurance. They are great partners of ours. They also have a great saying, real life has no filter, and that applies.
And that applies here. And when it comes to money, we are removing the filter. We've been working.
Let me say it. We've been working, oh my gosh. Protective.com has this great learning center with all of these amazing resources when it comes to all of these things.
So today we're going to talk about 3 things we've learned about how to deal with saving for college and retirement while balancing debt.
Which a lot of people are dealing with. Raise your hand if you're dealing with that.
The first thing we've learned is about keeping score.
Yeah, and I like this. I like to keep score. I don't like a budget. Keeping score is kind of like a budget, but it sounds a lot cooler. And it involves taking all of your expenditures and all of your income and literally at the end of every day, seeing how you did and how much you have left over or how short you are.
And doing this for 21 days, getting the habit of doing this for 21 days to change your spending habits and help you change the score if you need to. Number 2, we've learned it's okay to prioritize our retirement fund over saving for our child's education.
What?
Personally, this is a decision we've made because we know that our children, when it's time for them to go to college, they will be at the beginning of their earning years. So we need to more aggressively save for our retirement. If they have to get a low interest student loan or a grant or a scholarship, that's available to them. Yeah. But those grants and scholarships are not available for people who are retiring.
No, you can't get a scholarship for retirement. Although if there is one that I'm not aware of, please let me know because I would like to apply to the boat scholarship for me when I get done working. Is that not a thing?
No filter.
Nope, not a thing. Number 3 thing we learned, not all debt is created equal.
When talking about saving for retirement, what we personally have decided is to attack any credit card debt and get rid of that, which we totally have, and then start to aggressively save for retirement. There's no use trying to do both at the same time.
So all right, we're good. I think I'm basically qualified to be a professional accountant now.
No, not at all,
No.
ever. Nope. But we are spending a lot of time at the Learning Center over at Protective.com where there's all sorts of information to help on these topics and many more.
Keep an eye out for our other 3 segments about more stuff like this.
Did you like that video? I sure did. Because it showed to me that working with a professional like yourself, then they were able to maybe look at more solutions than maybe they could get themselves over social media, folks. Such as looking at things for what? How do they manage debt? How do they look at personal savings? How do they look at college planning? And then finally, how do they look at retirement? And man, those are benchmarks, folks, that faces many of your clients, and how the professional like you is able to help them with that. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope, folks, that you'll contact our internal wholesaler and ask for them for more information, because we appreciate you and they appreciate working for you, and that's what we're really here for. Again, we're what? That community. to make you feel comfortable. So, God's plan for you, folks, it is capital G. Man, it is capital G. And remember, blessed are they who ease the pain of misfortune, for they shall be called insurance agents. Take care.